Hey guys, Omerko here, self-taught web developer. Couple weeks ago we checked this API for Chuck Norris jokes, and today I wish to check another one with Angular. Today we will join for Giphy developers and use their API. Their API should allow us to get some GIFs, we could get trending ones, or even search for some GIFs by query. This is the app that we will create today. As you could see, I'm getting the GIFs here. And if I would search, for example, a ball GIF and I hit enter, I will get another GIFs, the different ones, right? So without further discussion, let's jump into it. So first thing first, I assume that you already know Angular. So with that we could create our project here. I will create a new Angular app here in my Giphy API project, so I will run a command ng-new and the name of the app, that could be Giphy API for example, and I will just hit enter. It should first ask me about the routing. I would refuse that with n flag, as we won't have the routing for this app. Then I should also choose my wished stylings. So I will go with normal CSS. We won't go with SCSS, Sass, less, or styles. We will go with CSS. Now it will install all the packages that we need for our Angular app. Once it is done, we will go into that app. So now once everything is finished, I will go into Giphy API folder, and there I could run my app. So I will run ng serve with open flag to immediately open up my app in a browser. Also here on the right side I will also go to that folder, so Giphy API, and I will just type code and that to open up in Visual Studio Code. So our app is now up and running, and first thing that I will do is create some UI for our app. So the current content that we see on our app is some basic content, starting content from Angular, and here it is in app component, and I will remove all of that. Once we save it, it will immediately refresh the browser on the right side, and you can see that we have empty app now. So first I will go to my styles.css, and inside I will just target the star, and that's for all elements that we could have on a screen. I will put padding for all elements to 0 pixel, margin also to 0 pixel, and font family will be, for example, let's use this one, so Impact Arial Narrow Bold. Then the next thing that I will do, I will go back to my terminal and I will generate the header, that kind of navigation header that we have at the top. So ng generate component header, and I will use skip tests flag to not create any of the test files. So now I will also use that header. I will go to my app component and I will use app, and by Visual Studio Code it will give me automatically my header component that I generated, and I will use it. I will save a screen, and here you could see the header works. The font is that font that we have in styles.css, so this one here. So now I will go to header HTML here, and let me change header. So I will have a nav, and inside I will have a p tag. I could just type Giphy API app, and the text should be here. So now for the CSS, I will target my nav, so nav like this, and I will put the background color on it to be 121212, kind of dark one. Then text align center, then padding to 15 pixel, then color could be FFF, white one, and font size 20 pixel. If I save now, our app has that header at the top with the title. Next thing that I will generate is a search for our app. So here I will do the same thing. I will use ng generate component. I will name it search, and also I will use skip tests flag that I used before. It will generate the one more component, search component for us. So now back in app component here, I will use that search, so app, and here it is, that search component, and below my header I should have this search works now. So now I will open up my search component, HTML part, and let's create some markup. I will have a class, div with class of search, and I will have h4 inside, for example, search for GIF, we could use S. Then input, we will use this input to basically search by query our GIFs. And I will put placeholder, search for GIF. And we should also have a key up here and stuff like that, how we wish to search for our GIFs. But I will add those once we come to a logic part. Now I will go to CSS of this search component. And for CSS, I will target search. And I will put max width on it to 600 pixel. Then margin, 30 pixel auto. Then text, align, should be center. Font size for the entire block should be 18 pixel. And for the input field that we have inside of search, so I will target that. I will set width to be 100 percentages, so it should take up all of those 600 pixel. Then padding should be 8 pixel, 16 pixel, and 8 for top and bottom, and 16 for left and right. And margin top 20 pixel. Let's save, and here it is. So now that we have kinda our markup for this app, we still don't have a markup for the GIFs that we will render, but it's enough for now. We could now create our service that will communicate with through HTTP requests with the Giphy API, and we could also set up that Giphy API. So first I will generate a service for myself, so I will use ng generate s for service, and I will name this service data, also skip tests. So now let me first close these open editors for now, and I will go to app module here. The reason why I'm here is because I need to import HTTP client, so I will use import HTTP client module. I will import it from @angular /common and /http, and I also need to put this HTTP client module here in the imports. There it is. So now that we have our data service here, as we will use HTTP through this service, I will also import HTTP client to this service. So import HTTP client from @angular common HTTP. And to use this client, I will just import it here in my constructor as a private HTTP, and it will be type of HTTP client. And that's all that we need to import our HTTP client from Angular, so to use it for communication with the API. Save now, and we are ready to set up our Giphy account. For that, you can go to Giphy developers. You can click here on get started, and you will be redirected to their documentation, but here at the top you will have a login. So I just clicked on that. Well, it will automatically log me into my account. So here is the app that I created for this video, but also I could create another one. First of all, let's go to docs here for documentation and see what we can use with this Giphy API. So here it is, API endpoints, and basically we could search for some specific GIFs. We could get trending GIFs, translate ones, we could get random GIFs or at least one GIF. There is upload endpoint, get GIFs by ID, etc, etc. We could also pull different categories, autocomplete that we get for GIFs with Giphy, and much more stuff. We will use for today trending endpoint, so to get those trending GIFs, and later we will search for the GIFs with this endpoint. For rest of those endpoints, you could test it on yourself. So let's go here to dashboard. Yeah, and we could create an app. Here you will be asked to create an SDK or API. I will just create the API and I will go next step. And I should enter the app name. So Giphy API tutorial, for example. And I will confirm the terms of service from Giphy, and I will just create an app. Okay, so description is required. So simple app for tutorial. That's a good description. So create an app, and there it is. Now I have an app. With this app that we created on Giphy, we get this API key. I should copy this key and put it in my environment file where I could use it through my app. The reason why key will go to environment file, well, environment file is kinda at least a bit secured on clouds where we usually host our apps. So people won't really see your API key. Plus by that they won't be able to hack you and easily go through your data that you have here on Giphy developers. So just copy this API key, and now I will open up here environments. We have environment TS file and environment prod TS file. We won't use the prod one as that's for production. I will just use this one, and here I will store for example Giphy API key, which will be string of this key. Save it and go back to data service. So as we will use this key to communicate with the API, we need to import it here. So I will import environment from, and I will go to environments/environment. So basically I imported the entire object of environment, and inside of that object I have access to this Giphy API key, and that's good enough. So now let's go to data service, and I think it's time to create the first request to a Giphy API. The first thing that we will do, basically we will try to create a request to get trending gifs. So down here I will create a method called get trending gifs, and this method will eventually return me this.http. We are using this HTTP client now, and we have a method on it called get. So we will use a get method, and I will use backticks here, and I will also pass some data here. So I will just copy the URL that I need to pass like this. Let me shorten this one. So you see that we have API from a Giphy here. We are going to gifs and we are getting into trending as we are searching for trending, and then we are passing with this query of API key, we will pass our environment Giphy API key that we have from environment, right? And also we will pass a limit to be equal to 50. So basically this limit will just pull 50 of the gifs. We won't really pull 20,000 as Giphy has. And I wish to show these gifs now, but I will need the component for that where I wish to render those. So kinda below this search for GIF that we have this input field. So I will generate new component, and I will generate ng generate component gifs, let's call it like that, skip tests flag, and once everything is done we can go to that component. So here it is. I will just first go to my app component here, and I will pass here app gifs component, so we could see it down below. And inside of the gifs of TypeScript I will first import my data service that I have. So here I would use private data service, and this will be the type of data service. It will automatically import it here at the top. So now on ng on init I will here use this service, so this data service, and I will use a method that I have here called get trending gifs. So now that I use this method, this method will basically communicate with this method that I have here, and this method will communicate to the API that we have here. So once that is done, I will here subscribe to my method, and I will get some kind of response. Type I will put any, and let's just console log this response. So console.log data response. So let's see what we get in our browser. If I go here and I inspect my element, let me just shrink it a bit, and here in console I will refresh the page right now, and I will get this data here. Obviously, if I open up here, I will get data object, and here there are 50 entries from a Giphy API. So I could open up one of those, and there is kinda a lot of things that you could see here, right? There is, for example, images, different height and width for the images of that GIF. So you could use whichever you wish. There is the ID, embed URL, bit.ly URL, right? There is kinda a lot of stuff. We also get the object after data. Let me close this up. So this data is main one for us. We also get the object meta. This is just how the status, how the request went. So is it everything is okay? If it's not, and kinda like that. And also the response ID from that request, which is not important for us right now. And we have this pagination. This pagination is great thing, as maybe you are pulling a lot of GIFs, so you wish to render just a couple of those, but also you could integrate pagination with this data, and you could paginate through a data on your screen. So now let me close this up here, and now we are ready to basically save our data to some kind of property. And I will create a property here called GIFs. It will be type of array any, right? And it will eventually be just an empty array. But once everything is finished, here I will put my this.gifs to be equal to a response, and that data object that we have in our response. So now that we have our data in our component, we could go to HTML and create the markup for that data. So markup, I will create a div with class of GIFs, and I will create another div inside with class of GIF, so for each individual GIF. And here we could just loop through GIFs, for example ng4, and to loop I will use let of GIF of GIFs, and we will render image for each of the GIFs. So source, we will bind source to a GIF that images, well, these images and also that downsized that URL, and here alt will be just image, for example. So these images, wow, there it is already, we are seeing it on a screen. That's great. So let me go here again and open up this console. So I don't know, maybe I removed the console log from here. Yes, I did. So console.log response. Let me quickly do that. Here it is. So how those images we are getting. So we are getting into this data, and each of GIFs will have its own images object, and each of images object that we are using will have his downsized object. So downsized here, and URL will be the property of that downsize. So basically we are using this URL to combine it with our source of our image, and by that it will show a 50 of our GIFs on our screen. So let's also now style this a bit. So first I will target GIFs, and I will display those as a grid. Then I will use grid template columns for auto, and auto. So basically to have 4 columns. Then width should be 1000 pixel, so 250 pixel for each of those columns. Then margin 0, and auto to be kinda in center. Then also I will target GIF and image inside, and I will just put max width to 200 pixels, so we are sure that it won't go over that line. So if I make my screen larger, like this, you can see that now our images are here, the 50 of those that we have. If I would refresh my screen, we will get, well, basically the same GIFs as basically we are using that trending API. But this is great as this is obviously working. So now I think that it is time to search for GIFs here. So here I will first close these files that I have opened, and I will go into search HTML first. And to search, I will first pass to my input field my local reference of GIF, for example. Then I will use the event of key up, and I will on enter, well, when our app detects the enter key, I will run a method, and that method would be called search. And I will just pass to that method GIF.value, so value of this input field, as I have this GIF as local reference to this input field. So let's create this method now. So I will copy it and go to search TypeScript, and here I will use that method, so search. So first of all, we need to import our data service here also, as this component will also communicate with Giphy API. So private data service to be type of data service. Great, it is automatically imported here. So this search method will have we are passing to that the value of the input, so it is some kind of search term. This is the type of string, and if this search term is not equal to an empty string, so basically we will first check to not send a request if the search term is empty, if that input field is empty. So if this is not equal to an empty string, then we will communicate with our service, and we will use a method that we will create soon. The method, let's call it search GIFs, as we are searching for those, and we will pass our search term here. So now we should go into our data service to create this method. So I will save this file, go to data service. Down here, I would well, basically do the same thing. I would copy this entirely and paste it here. But here I should pass something else. First of all, we are not passing trending, but search, as this is the type of request. Then here we will pass Q for query and set it to be equal to our basically GIF name, the search term that we are passing, so GIF name. We also should pass here a GIF name, which is type of string. And here I should pass my API key, which is this one. Everything is great, and also limit should be also 50 of GIFs. So now here where I use my method, I could subscribe to it, so subscribe. Then I will get response with which is type of any, and I will console.log search data response. So we could see this response when we search our data. So here I obviously have some issue, and here I didn't pass my arrow for the arrow function. So now here I will inspect my element, go to console, and this is not important. So let's search now for ball, hit enter. We are not seeing new GIFs, but we are getting GIFs from the data, obviously. Everything is great, right? We created that request and we got response. So to see our GIFs that we pass through this component, well, basically we should refactor our service a bit and also our component. So now in my service here, I won't just use these requests here. I will also subscribe to it in our service. Let's do that just now. So here for get trending GIFs, I would subscribe to that. So subscribe, and I will get response of any. This is just smarter way to do our things. We will use RxJS for this one. And here I also should put GIFs here kinda to create a new property. And I will create a GIFs property to be equal of new BehaviorSubject. This BehaviorSubject will be imported from RxJS, and this will handle our states of our data. So this is the type of any, and eventually initially it will be just empty array. So here I should put this dot gifs, and now on it I could use next method, and to next method I will just pass the data to it. So I will pass response dot data that we have, that object that we have on our response. And also I will do the same thing for my search. So I will copy it from here, and here I will do the same thing, and that is great. So now to get our data through to our components, we should also create the method called the get gifs, and this method will just return to us this dot gifs dot as observable. So with this we will be able to subscribe to these GIFs, and whenever we detect some change, for example where there was a search by a query, we will be able to update our data with that data from a search. So now to search component here, we won't subscribe to it as we subscribed to it on our data service. So we will remove that subscribe. We will just contact our service like this. And to our GIFs here, we won't also subscribe to it here. We will just contact our service, but we will subscribe to that get gifs method that we have. So this dot data service dot get gifs, and as it is observable, we will be able to subscribe to it. We will get some kind of response, and here let me put this response to type of any. Here I will set these gifs that we have, this dot gifs, to be equal to this response now. So this should do the work. Also good thing, as this is our behavior subject, this is our subscription that we created. We should also clear this subscription. We don't need to do that for the HTTP subscriptions, as that will handle Angular by default for us. So to clear our subscription, I will import something called onDestroy, one more lifecycle hook, and here I will use ng onDestroy, and to ng onDestroy I should subscribe. So here I will create a subscription property, which is type of subscription. This is imported from rxjs, and I will store this subscription, this dot subscription. Well, this request will eventually be stored in this subscription. So here we could use something like this dot subscription dot unsubscribe. So once everything is done, we are destroying the app, or well, not destroying, we are removing for ourselves from the app or from the current page. We will also unsubscribe from this subscription, and with this we won't have any type of memory leak. So here I will close my console. Let me refresh. This would be our GIFs, trending GIFs. If I search for ball now and I hit enter, you will see that these GIFs with help of BehaviorSubject will be automatically updated. So I think this is it. There is 50 of those also. So I guess that you saw the idea of using this Giphy API. It is awesome API, easy to use, and I would say a really basic one. It is great for beginners to test their skills. I hope that you like what you saw today. If you do, please click like and subscribe, as I'm posting new content weekly. Thank you and see you in the next video.